Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be creating this tax deductions template. This template has two parts. There is a table part, which is where you would add in all of the transactions that you need to collect for tax deduction purposes. And we have the dashboard, which summarizes the information in the table. That's what we're going to be making today. The first part of the dashboard gives you a quick summary, the number of days to tax day, total deductions, total mileage, and the receipts collected. Down here, we have graphs that breaks down the categories versus subcategories and the amount of deductions per month. As usual, I'm going to be using this checklist to organize the tutorials so that we stay on track. Also, this video will be broken down into chapters. That's way it's easier for you to navigate back and forth. We have done the template overview, so we can cross that off. Next, I'm going to show you how to create the setup tab. Here's the setup tab. Here is where we would enter the due date so we can reuse this template, categories and subcategories to allow us to enter information in a transactions table easier. I'll start by creating a new sheet. And what I like to do is clean this sheet up. That means I change the font, I make it center aligned and vertical aligned. I also remove the excess rows and columns. It just makes it easier for me to work with a smaller canvas. So for the setup tab, I don't need anything past E and 21. So I'll go ahead and remove anything from E. So I'm selecting this entire column all the way down, delete, and from 22 all the way down, delete. Rename this sheet, setup tab 2. Next, I'm going to work on resizing the columns. I want these columns to be narrow, so I'll resize them to 30. And these ones are going to be wider, resize them to 300. And then I'll select the entire row, so 1 to 21, right click, and I'm going to resize these, make these 30. Next, select B2 to D2. I'm going to merge that and select B3 to D4. Okay, we're just selecting rectangles here to create the outline for the setup tab. Merge this. I'm going to add borders around this section. Select both of them, go to borders. I'm going to change the color to this gray color, do outer borders, and I'm going to do another one around the header section. I'm going to do the same for this section. So first I'll do the header section, then I'll do the border around the actual table. Select the entire section inside the table, borders. And I'm going to select this horizontal border, but then I want to change the color to something lighter. So I'll click on the color, change it to this one, and I'm also going to change the style of the border to this one. And because this is already selected, it's going to apply the color change and the border style change to the internal borders of this table. Now you can't quite see it yet, but when I remove the grid lines, you should be able to see that clearly. Before I do that, I will select this entire table, click on paint format. Now this is going to copy the format for me and I'm going to paste it here. And now I have the exact same style applied to this table. I'm going to go ahead to view grid line. And now you can see we have our two tables and the section up here. Okay, so back to the example, we're going to add these headers here and add some colors. Tax due date, here categories. And so now I'm going to add some colors to these tables. So click here and then click on color. Now you see I already added some custom colors here. I always recommend using custom colors because it makes it easier for you to change the colors globally instead of going into each individual section to change them. For example, if I apply this color here, this yellow color, and then this green color here and this blue color here, okay, and then I change my mind back to color, click on this, and I want darker color. So let's say I change this color to this darker color. You can see this automatically updates and changes to this darker color and this one. So everything updates automatically, and not only will it change it in this tab, it will change it in every single place in this template that these colors have been used. So if we go back here, you can see some of the colors here have been changed, and if I go to the dashboard, you can see some of the changes applying to this dashboard. All right, so I'm going to leave these colors as is because these are the colors I want applied to this template, and if I change my mind later, I'll go ahead and change it from here. Next, I want to apply the date picker option to this space, so I can double click and select a date. Click in that cell, data validation, add rule, change it from drop down to is valid date, reject the input, and click done. And now when I double click, I can apply a date, and I want to change this format so it looks more like this. Okay, so go back here, format, number, custom date, and time. I'm going to select this format, and if you don't find the format you're looking for, you can always adjust it here. You have several different options to display the dates, the month, and the year. Click apply and make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Then I'm going to add placeholder categories, the same ones that I have here. So if you're making this template for yourself, you can go ahead now and add the categories and subcategories that apply to your specific situation. This tutorial, I'm going to copy these and paste them here. All right, so this section is done. Let's go back to the checklist. We can cross this off. Next, we're going to create the tax deduction table. This table right here. This table is where we would enter in all of the data that we would need to track for tax purposes. So we're going to do the same thing. Open up a new sheet, remove everything after L. cell. And for this sheet, I will leave the rows all the way down to 1,000. Rename the sheet tax deduction entries 2. Resize the rows. So select everything from 1 all the way down to 1,000. By the way, to select everything at once, tapping on Shift, Command on my keyboard, and the down arrow. This is the shortcut key for MacBook, and I believe it's similar for Windows. Shift Control and the down arrow key on your keyboard. All right, so now that everything is selected, I can right click and resize it, and I'm going to do 30. Select the first and the last column, right click, resize that to 30, and then I'm going to start working on the structure. First, I'll select these 3 rows and add a border around it. This is going to be the header section for the table. Command Shift down and add a border, and then I'm going to add a border here because this is going to be where the headers for the table would go. Change this from 30 to 90. Merge this, then add a color. Okay, so this would be tax deduction entries. Make this bigger, 36 in bold. Back to the example. I'm going to copy these headers and paste them here. Next, we're going to adjust this column width. For example, the item name needs to be a lot wider. Put it all the way here. Make these two the same width. The category and subcategory about this wide, maybe slightly wider. And the mileage is okay. And then next is document collected. This is going to be a checkbox. Click in this row, right click, and I'm going to make it 35. Okay, and then select the entire row. Go up here for text wrapping, click on the arrow and select wrap. That way you can see the entire header even though you have a narrow column. Link to documents or notes need to be wider, so I'm going to go ahead and select both of them and just drag them. As you put in information, you can make it smaller or wider as necessary. All right, I'm going to remove the grid lines. All right, so I need to add internal borders. Select all the way down. Back to our borders, change the color to the lighter color, change the style to this one, and click on horizontal borders. All right, and then it applies it to the entire table. And I'm going to go ahead and just apply a color to the header. Apply whatever color you want. This is the one I'm choosing to use for this example. If you want to add column borders, you can do so as well. Select everything, okay, and then go to borders and select this option to enter vertical borders. For this example, I'm only using the horizontal borders. Next, I want to add this filter option right here. Select the entire header row, okay, and go all the way to the top until you see create a filter. Click on that, and now the filter has been applied. If I start entering data, you can see it moves down to accommodate every new entry in the table. Next, I'm going to customize each column that needs to be customized in this table. The item name is fine. We'll skip that. The next is the date column. This needs to be customized, so when we double click, the date picker option shows up. To do this, select the column. You don't need to select everything, just a few rows is fine. Go to data validation and add rule. Now, before you add the rule, remove 12. 12 is the last row that we selected. If we remove 12, it will apply this rule to the entire column. Change the criteria to is validate like we did before. Reject the input, click done. And then now if we double click here, the calendar pops up and we can add a date. And then I want to change the date format. So select this cell, click on custom date and time. So this would work, but what I want is an abbreviated name of the month. So I'll select the month name, select the abbreviated name, click apply. The next column says month and year, and this is going to represent the month and the year from the date we have selected here. All we need to do is reference this cell, and we'll do this by clicking on equals, click in the cell, click enter. So it makes an exact copy of the date in the cell. Now we're going to format this so it only says month and year. Click on column D, format, number, custom date and time. And I'm going to change this to full month name. So if yours already had the abbreviation from the previous step, change it back to full month name and apply. Then we're going to copy it all the way down. Click in that cell, copy, and click here, select all the way down, right click and paste special, formula only. Now if I double click here, you can see that this cell is referencing the correct adjacent cell. And to test it, I'm going to add another date here. Let's say 30th. And here you can see the month and the year shows up correctly. Next, we're going to format the currency column. Select the entire column, go to format. Here are some options for currency. I'll go ahead and select this one right here. And of course, if you want to change the currency, you can change it by going to custom currency and selecting the currency you want to change it to. So I'll select this option. And then if I type 1000 now, you can see it formats it in the correct currency format. Next, we're going to add our category and subcategory drop downs. To do this, select a few rows. We already have data validation open, so click on add rule. Now remove F10, change criteria to drop down from range. Click on this icon that says select data range and go to the setup tab, select the category, click OK, and click on advanced options. This is where you can change the style of the drop down. So right now it's applying this first style, which is called chip. You can change it to arrow or plain, and I will keep it as chip for now. Scroll back up and apply some colors to the different categories. and click done. And then if I select this option here, now I have the option to apply category to that entry. Repeat the same steps for subcategory. Okay, so now we have our category and subcategory done. Next is the mileage column. This is a number column, so we could leave this as automatic. So if you click on column H and go to format, automatic is already selected, which is fine. But if you want to change the format to numbers so it has the separations between thousands and decimal places, you can do so. For this, I'll leave it as automatic. And document collected is going to be a checkbox to let us know that we have collected a document related to the transaction we're tracking. So to do this, we'll do the same thing. Select a few rows, add rule, change it from drop down to checkbox, remove number 13 from the row so it applies it to the entire column, and click done. The next tab is a link to a document. You're going to be pasting the link to the document. You can use Google Drive to store all your receipts, any documents, pictures, images, PDFs, etc. And then you can copy that link from your Google Drive and paste it here. So it's easier for you to go to that document and then print it out as necessary. And then the last section is for notes, so we'll leave that blank as well. Next, I'm going to copy the placeholder information from here. Right click and paste values only. And of course, if you are doing this, go ahead and type in your own specific information that you're going to need to collect for your tax deduction purposes. Let's go through the table to make sure everything works the way it's supposed to. So we have the client name. I'm going to change this to left justified. All right, so it looks like this. So we have our dates, a month and year looks correct. We have our amounts showing up how we want. The categories and subcategories work well. And mileage, of course, only applies to the expenses that you need to track mileage for. If you don't need to track the mileage for that expense, leave it blank. And here is where we're checking off if the document has been collected or not. And then here's what I was referring to earlier as where you would link your document. I'm going to remove this to show you how it works. All right, so we are in my Google Drive account. Assume that you have your documents here. Let's say this is a document I'm going to keep track of. Go to more actions, click on share, copy link. Back here, we're going to paste that link right here. So click in that cell and click paste. All right, now it's automatically showing up with this color because the color for the hyperlink is purple right here. So you can change it to black if you don't want it to be that lighter color. And you could also decide to make it left justified so you can see the beginning of the hyperlink. And you could also wrap it so it shows up like this so you can see most of the link. I will change it back to the clip because it looks better. So I'll select clip so it goes back to this format, and do the same thing for notes. I'm going to clip it, and if you want you could make this wider so you can see more of the notes. All right, so let's go back to our checklist, see how we're doing. Okay, so this step is done as well as the placeholder, so we can check this off as well. Next, we're going to design the dashboard. So let's take a quick look at the dashboard structure. All right, so here's what we're going to be doing next. I'm going to remove the excess rows and columns, remove everything after I and everything after 12, open up a new sheet, and then resize the rows, make this 30, and let's go back to the dashboard. All right, so next we're going to add these narrow columns at the edge and in between the wider columns. So select every other column, resize these to 30, and then select these larger columns, resize them to 300. Next, we're going to resize the rows. We'll start with the first one. This is going to be 100. We'll leave one blank, click on row 5, make this 100, and skip the next two. We can resize, make this 300, and the last one, skip these two, click on 11, resize, and 400. Okay, now we can start adding some borders to the structure. Select this first row, go to borders, change it to the first option for the style, add the border, and then I'm gonna add a small border here. Select this cell, add an outer border, and add another outer border around the bottom section. Select these two cells, paint format, and just paste it here. Now we have 4 identical tables. Next, we'll create the sections for the graphs. Select these cells, merge, add a border. Select these cells, you don't have to merge them, but we are going to add an outer border. Select the entire thing, paint format, paste it here, and now we have an identical table here as well. Next, we're going to do this space for the bar charts. This is going to be the header, so merge it, add a border, and then select this entire area. You don't have to merge it, you could as well, but you don't need to, just add the outer border. Now I'm going to remove the grid lines so we can see what it looks like. So this needs to be merged, so merge this, and then go ahead and apply whatever colors you want. All right, now let's add some titles. I'll call it tax deduction dashboard, but you can name it whatever you want and make it much bigger. So 36, make it bold. Actually, I'll make this a tiny bit smaller. Okay. And then we're going to add these 4 subheaders. Back to the example. So this is tax countdown days, total tax deductions, total mileage, and receipts collected. To save time, I will be copying it from here and paste it here. All right. So here we have tax countdown days, total deductions, total mileage, and receipts collected. And here is going to be category and subcategory distribution. Paste in the values only. And finally, we have monthly deductions here, values only. Next, I'm going to select all of them, click on bold. Alrighty. Back to our checklist. We have completed the structure design. So cross that off. Theme colors, I already showed you how to do that. It's just talking about applying these colors here. So the custom colors, either by selecting your own colors or using one of the theme colors that Google Sheet has provided. All right. So we already did that. So we can check that off. Next, we're going to add formulas for the different sections. Back here, we need a formula to calculate the number of days to tax day. So using the tax due date relative to today's date. So it changes automatically every single day you open up the template. We can calculate the total amount of deductions from the table, the total mileage, and the percentage of receipts we have collected. Here's the first formula. We're going to take the date in the setup tab, this location, and subtract it from today's date. Back here, we're going to place the formula here. So click in the cell, equals, go to our setup tab, click in the cell with the dates, and go back here. Now we're going to say minus today. Okay, so just type today and close the parentheses and enter. So it says 0 because when we go back to our setup tab, we have today's date. Let's actually change this tax due date to April 15th. And when we go back here, now it says 42 days, which is correct. I'm going to make this bigger, 24, and make it bold. Okay, next we're going to calculate the total tax deductions. Going back to the example, it's a simple formula. We're adding up all of the entries in column E. Column E contains the amounts right here. Click in the cell, equals sum, tab, and go back to our table. We're going to select this entire column, and you don't have to select it all the way down. Just select a few of them and remove the row number. So 14, remove 14 and hit enter. And here's the total amount. I'm just going to copy the formatting from here and apply it here. Okay, so it's bigger and bolder. Next, we'll do the same for total mileage, equals sum. Go back to the table, scroll over to the column with mileage, which is column H. Select a few rows, remove the row number, enter. Now we have a total mileage showing up here. Make this bigger, 24, make it bold. Okay, and the last is the percentage of receipts collected. So we'll just make it percentage of receipts collected. Back here is the formula for that. And it's account A and account E formula, because first it's going to check the first column to make sure there's an entry there. Then it's going to check column I to make sure that the box is checked. And then is going to calculate the percentage of boxes checked in that column. I will copy it. So go ahead and pause the video and copy the formula. All right, so go back here, paste the formula here. I'm going to need to change the name of the tab because this is referencing the table from the example, not the table that I just created. So double click in here, you can see tax deduction entry, which is this table. I'm going to change it to this table by adding 2. And then anywhere in the formula that has tax deduction entry, I'll change it to tax deduction entry 2. So if you're using this exact formulas, but you want to change the name because your tab names are different, this is how you would do it, and hit enter. And then make it bigger, 24, make it bold. And then now I want to change it to be formatted in a percentage form. Go all the way to the top, click on format as percentage, and you could either leave it in 2 decimal places, or if you want, you can decrease the decimal places to make it a whole number. Before we move forward, let's test these formulas to make sure they're working the way they're supposed to work. Go to the setup tab. Let's change this to 2026. Back here, you can see now it changes to 407 days, so we know it's working fine. For the total tax deductions, go back to the table. We can select the entire entry here, and down here at the bottom right hand corner, you can see that the sum here is 16,994.36. It's the same as what we have here, 16,994.36. So let's change this to 10,000. Back here, you can see changes to 26,000. So we know it's working as it should. Next, let's do the miles. So we have 130. Go back here. Let's add 1,000 miles here and 500 miles here. And now we have 2230. And finally, let's do the documents collected. Select all of them and uncheck. So now we have no document collected. Back to the dashboard, 0%. Let's check off a few. Back here, 11.4%. And let's check every single box in this table, 100%. Everything's working the way it's supposed to. Back to our checklist. We can cross this off. Next, we're going to add our graphs and charts. First, we'll start with the category distribution. Click on the icon that says Insert Charts. The side panel is going to open up and you can see it's selecting these cells. We don't want that. We're going to select the range we want. So click on the icon that says Select Data Range. Go to your table with the data, and we need to select the data in this column. Select a few of them. Remove the row number like we did before. So select everything all the way down till the end. Click OK. The correct range shows up here. Click on the box that aggregates. Next, we're going to change it from column chart to pie chart. So just click on chart type, click on pie, and move it over here and just resize it until it fits perfectly in this rectangle. You can see that it has its own border. We're going to remove it because we already have a border right here. So click on edit charts, go to customize, make sure the background color says none, and also change the chart border color to none. So here's what it looks like. Now we're going to do the subcategory next. Same steps. Insert charts, select the range, click OK, aggregate, change it from column charts to pie chart. I'm going to customize it by removing the background color and the border color, and then resize it so it fits in the space like we did for the category. Next, we're going to create this chart with the amounts for each month. So go back here, insert charts, select data range, back to our table, and we need to select these two columns right here. And now you can see the reason why we created this additional column, because this is what we're going to use to create the graph. Then we're going to remove the number after E. Removing 17 is going to make sure that it selects these two columns all the way down. Click OK. If it comes out like this, we need to make a few adjustments. Double click to open the side panel. We want the dates to show up here in the x-axis, so the month and the year, and we want the y-axis to have the amount. So first thing I'm going to do is remove everything under series. Click on the three dots on the right hand side, remove all series. Okay, so now we can go ahead and select the x-axis, which would be column D, the ones with month and year, and the y-axis, we're going to assign it to column E, the column with the amount. All right, and then we're going to use aggregate because if you look at the graph now, we have several Aprils, several Mays. We want it to all be pulled into one. So click on aggregate, and now it shows one bar for April 2024, May 2020, etc. And I'm going to go to customize just to remove the background color and the border, just like we did with the others, and pull it into this space and resize it. Now, going back to the example, you can see that each bar has a different color. To do this, you have to go back to your charts, double click to open up the side panel, and then click on the first bar. So it only selects this first bar, and then you can change the color by clicking on fill color. Let's say we want to apply this blue color. Click on the next bar, this color, and just go through each bar and apply the colors that you want to apply. And here's the final product. Going back to our checklist, that is the last step of this tutorial. Before we wrap things up, I do want to mention my Patreon membership. If you are part of the paid Patreon membership, you will receive this template that we just created today with all the formulas, with all of the formatting, so you can go ahead and make a copy of it and customize it even further to fit your own specific needs. I will leave links in the description box, so if you haven't signed up already, you can go ahead and click the link and be a part of that community and support me in that way. Thank you so much for my existing Patreon members. All right, so the next thing is to show you my advanced template that I have for sale. Now, this template is enough to just get you started. But if you want something with more advanced features, I'm going to show you the template that I have for sale in my digital shop. Here is the demo copy of that template. By the way, you can change the colors if these colors don't work for you. We have a setup tab like we had before, and a tab to enter all of your expenses, just like the one we just created. And then we have two dashboards. The first is the annual dashboard, and here you can change the year. So from 2024, we can go to 2025, and the information in the dashboard adapts to the information entered for that year. And you have more information that you can track with more charts, tables, and graphs. And we also have a multi-year dashboard. That way you can track the data for all the different years in one space. If these colors don't work for you, you can go ahead and easily change them by changing the colors here, and it updates the colors throughout the entire template. All right, so that brings me to the end of today's tutorial. Thank you so much for sticking all the way till the end. If you have questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.